Welcome to the ZWave Waveform Library and Sequences training. ZWave is the graphical user interface to the ZT series family of waveform generators. The ZT series waveform generators allow you to generate waveforms from a provided set of standard function shapes or to create arbitrary waveforms and waveform sequences. Waveform sequences can be created using a combination of standard shapes and user-created arbitrary waveforms. To prepare waveforms for use in a sequence, we can use the Waveform Library. The Waveform Library provides up to 16 megabytes of memory for waveform storage, which allows up to 4,096 different waveform handles for use. To view the Waveform Library, click on the Waveforms palette button. Here you will see three tabs for waveform manipulation: Library, Reference, and Sequence. The Library tab allows you to view the waveforms belonging to specific handles. You can see how many points the waveform has, and preview the shape. On the right are buttons to add or manipulate waveforms in the library. Clicking on the Load button allows you to load an arbitrary waveform from an external file. Clicking on the Copy button opens the Copy Waveform dialog box, which allows you to copy waveforms from a number of sources, including the output channels, the reference channels, or other waveform library locations. The waveform memory is non-volatile. Waveforms in the library that have not been cleared remain after the instrument is powered off. Clicking Clear will clear the selected waveform library location according to the handle on the left. Clicking Clear All will clear the entire waveform library. Use this when sanitizing your instrument memory. The Invert and Scale buttons allow you to manipulate a waveform currently in the waveform library. The Invert button will flip the waveform vertically. The Scale button will open the Scale Waveform dialog box. Here you can scale the waveform vertically by a percentage factor to allow for different amplitudes of stages within one waveform sequence. By default, a waveform at 100%, if normalized when loaded, will be 2 volts peak to peak from -1 volt to 1 volt. The Save button will write the currently selected waveform to a file. The Reference tab allows you to populate one of 4 reference channels for use in sequences. Selecting the reference channel will show you whether a waveform is populated and how many points it has. The buttons on the right allow you to perform similar tasks to the Library tab. You can load a waveform from a file, copy a waveform to or from other sources, invert or scale the waveform, and save the waveform to a file. The Sequence tab allows you to generate and save a waveform sequence to memory. You can create up to 8 sequences to store in memory, each with a dedicated sequence handle. For each sequence, you can set the number of stages in your sequence. Each stage is a different waveform shape. On the right, selecting a stage number allows you to populate that stage with a waveform shape. You can select the source as either one of the reference channels or a handle from the waveform library. You can set the number of repetitions of that stage using the loop count. To generate the sequence and load it onto one of the output channels, click on the Generate Sequence button. Here, you can select which output channel to use as your destination. The horizontal settings for arbitrary sequences are controlled in the Output Control palette. Click on the Output 1 palette select. Then, click on the Arbitrary tab. Here you can see that the output mode was set to sequence. You can control the sample frequency of the sequence by changing the frequency value under Clock. For this example, we will be feeding channel 1 of a 5211 pixie waveform generator to channel 1 of a 4611 pixie DSO. We will use the graphical user interface ZScope to view the waveform sequence. Configure ZScope for a single 500 microsecond acquisition. Back in ZWave, we will make a waveform sequence that consists of 2 standard sine waves, 3 standard inverted triangle waves, and 5 periods of a loaded arbitrary waveform. First, Let's set up our waveform library. To copy the standard waveforms into the library, we first need to set an output channel to use the standard waveform. Click on the Output 1 palette select. Then click on Functions. Select the sine wave. This assigns a 1 MHz sine wave to channel 1. Then, click on the Waveforms palette select. In the Library tab, click the Copy button. In the Copy Waveform dialog, select Output 1 as a source. Select the Waveform Library as the destination. A sine wave will be stored in the first available Waveform Library handle. Click Copy. You should see the valid indicator turn to green and a sine wave in the preview area. The number of points has updated to 200. Let's follow the same process to create a triangle wave in the second location of the Waveform Library. Click on the Output 1 palette select. Then, click on the Functions tab and select Triangle. Return to the Waveform Library. Again, click Copy, select Output 1 as a source, Waveform Library as the destination, and click Copy. Handle 2 now contains a triangle wave. Click the Invert button to invert the triangle wave shape. Our last waveform stage will be an arbitrary waveform. We can either load an arbitrary waveform to Output 1 and copy it, or load an arbitrary waveform file directly to the library. To load the waveform file directly, click on the Load button. In the File dialog, browse to your arbitrary waveform CSV file and select it. Opening this file will create the arbitrary waveform in the next available handle in the Waveform Library. We can now see a preview of the arbitrary waveform at handle 3, as well as the number of points it contains. We now have our 3 waveforms ready for our sequence stages. Go to the Sequence tab. Here, we will create a sequence at handle 1 with the waveforms we saved in memory. Set the number of stages to 3 using the up arrow. On the right, select stage number 1. In the Source channel, select Waveform Library. Select Library Handle 1. Set the count to 2 using the up arrow. This will create 2 sine waves. Next, select stage number 2. Set the source to Waveform Library and the library handle to 2. This is where we saved our inverted triangle wave. Set the loop count to 3. Next, select stage number 3. Again, set the source to Waveform Library and the library handle to 3. This is where we saved our arbitrary waveform. Set the loop count to 5. Once all of the waveform stages are configured, click the Generate Sequence button. Select Sequence Handle 1, select Output 1 as the destination, and click Generate. In the Output 1 palette, click on the Arbitrary tab. Set the sample frequency to 10 MHz. Enable Channel 1 and click on the Run button. In ZScope, click on the Single button to initiate a single acquisition. Here, we see our waveform sequence: 2 sine waves, followed by 3 inverted triangles, followed by 5 arbitrary waveform periods. In ZWave, stop waveform generation by clicking on the Stop button. In the Output 1 palette, go to Common. If you'd like to save this waveform sequence for future use as a single arbitrary waveform, you can save the current output to a file using the Save to File button. The waveform sequence will already be saved in memory under Sequence Handle 1 until the waveform memory is cleared or the sequence is edited. This concludes the training on how to generate a waveform sequence using the Waveform Library in the ZWave Graphical User Interface. For more information on the ZWave Graphical User Interface, see the Introduction to ZWave video or view the ZWave User's Guide documentation. For more information on the Waveform Library and waveform sequences, see the Waveform Generator Instrument Manual, located in the Start menu. For more information on the ZT Series product line, visit the Teradyne website.